extraordinaire, Malcolm Reed. Hey, Malcolm.
Hey, Gerard. How's everybody hanging in there, man?
We're getting through it best we can, Malcolm, and it is so great to talk to someone whom I know had a great and strong relationship with, that being you, with JT. Someone that I think there was some mutual respect there, certainly from a cooking perspective. And I freely admit I have zero cooking skills, and JT was quite the chef, and everybody enjoyed it. But I think Rhino's got some sound we're going to play here that our audience shall enjoy.
Jason also asked me, how you cook a good steak? How can you tell a good steak before you cook it? I'm tired of playing craps with $50 of Piggly Wiggly steaks. Well, the key to any steak, and of course, now the cardiologists don't like this, but the difference in your steak, and probably what's happening to you, Jason, and Piggly Wiggly, and I'm not picking on Piggly Wiggly because they're good. They actually have some really good meat. But you got to be sure that you're not buying select beef. You've got several different cuts of beef, or rather grades of beef is what it's called. And that's what you really have to watch yourself for. And a lot of times, especially if you'll get a steak on sale, if you get a steak on sale, or they put them on sale, a lot of times they'll be select beef, which is different. You've got prime beef, which is produced from young, well-fed cattle, and it's got a lot of marbling, so you'll see a lot of fat in there. You understand what I'm saying? You'll see a lot of fat in there, a lot of the white and the marbling inside the meat, and that's how you know it's prime beef. And it's expensive. It's the most expensive that you can have. And then you have choice beef, which is what most people use. It's high quality, but it doesn't have as much marbling or fat as the prime beef does. Choice roast and steaks still very good. They're still very good, and they're still very flavorful and very good. Now, select beef is very uniform in quality, and it's very lean. It's not very tender because there's not much marbling, and you don't have as much juiciness and flavor because, after all, that's where your juice comes from, is from the fat and the marbling and all that. That's what makes it taste good. As much as I hate to say this, but this is what you need to understand. The more fat, the more flavor. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, fat tastes good.
Right. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you have to eat the fat or eat the fat around it or do anything else like that. That's not what I'm getting at. What I am getting at, though, Jason says, I'm avoiding the fat. Yeah, that's your problem.
I mean, just think about it. When you cook butter beans or something and you put that slab of pork fat in there, that's what adds the flavor.
Yeah, but you can do that, too. You can use a piece of ham.
Right. I mean, anything that's going to have fat on it to add flavor, that's what you're talking about with the steaks. The steaks have fat in them, and that's the marbling. That's what makes it taste good.
Well, I mean, and your cuts of steak are going to be different too. Like your sirloin is a very lean cut of meat. It doesn't have a lot of fat in it. Therefore, you have to cook it very medium rare to have tenderness. If you cook a sirloin too long, it's like cooking deer meat too long. You can't chew it. You know what I'm saying? But that's where your flavor comes from, is in the fat. And I'm not talking about the big pieces of fat. It's actually the smaller pieces of fat, the little veins of fat that you can see in a steak. That's what they call marbling, and that's where the flavor comes from. But and two, make sure that you're not buying select steaks. Ask your butcher. If they're running steaks on sale, they got ribeyes for $5.99 a pound. It's probably select, and they're not going to be very tender. Okay.
Would you recommend a steak with a bone in it?
I can take it either way. That's the new trend, bone-in fillets.
Right.
Everybody's got to have a bone-in fillet or a bone-in strip or a bone-in ribeye. The bone will give it flavor, but it also tends to cook quicker around the bone.
Yeah, because that bone gets hot.
Bone gets very hot. I'm not a bone-in steak guy. I'll eat them, obviously. I'll buy them when they're on sale. And porterhouses are pretty good. They're okay. But, and if they're, it still goes back to what the meat looks like. You've got to look at the beef, and you've got to, First of all, if you're eating beef and you're watching your health and your cholesterol, beef is good for you. There are plenty of lean cuts of beef that are certified by the Heart Association. They're your leaner cuts of beef. But if you want a very tender steak, you want a well-marbled steak and that it's got the fat in it, and that's what people need to understand. And you can eat beef as part of your healthy diet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Beef Council comes on with me every year at the fair, and we talk about that. There's a lot of cuts of beef that are heart healthy, and you can do that, and you can cook them in different ways. But, man, when you're cooking a steak, you got to have some fat on it, some marbling, and that's what makes it taste good. Okay? So there you go. I hope that helps you out.
Well, that is some complexities about a beef right there.
But I bet Malcolm understood every bit of it.
I guarantee he did. It was over my head, though, I have to admit.
I'm smiling ear to ear, guys. It makes me so happy to hear Jay. You can tell he's as passionate about talking about food as he was talking about politics. I think that's why he enjoyed, when I would come on there on some Fridays, that we could just talk about food and we could leave everything else out of the side. And man, he's got sage advice. I don't know if I've ever met someone that knew so much about cooking. He had a passion for cooking and telling other people and giving them help and steering them in the right direction.
No doubt. I am an eating connoisseur. I can't boil water, to be quite honest with you, but I have deep respect for people that can cook. And really good cooks, chefs, etc., they take great pleasure in serving up a delightful experience to their guests, to those who eat their food. There's great sense of satisfaction, I have always sort of thought. Is that right, Malcolm?
Oh yeah, we cook stuff all the time, and yeah, we taste it and it tastes good to us. But there's nothing better than to serving it to someone else and then telling you how good it is, or that's some of the best meat or best food they've ever ate. And I think that's what JT enjoyed about it too. He wasn't just cooking for himself. If you talked to him about cooking, he was cooking for a crowd every time, and whether it was a deer camp at home or tailgate, it was always good times and doing it for other people.
Yeah, so awesome. When you get into those kinds of minute details about meat qualities, that's just so over my head. I know that exists, but to those who cook a lot and grill a lot in particular and work with beef and meat, they get all that. It's over my head, but I'm fascinated by it and have deep respect for those that understand that. I didn't know, I got to tell you, and you guys are going to laugh at me here, I didn't know that the bone got hotter and therefore the meat cooked better close to the bone. Now that I think about it, that does seem to be the better part of the steak, but that has a bone in it at least. But I didn't know that. And then JT says, yeah, I can kind of take or leave, a bone-in steak. But we got on the screen right now, Rhino, what is that giant bone-in piece of meat that Malcolm's
we've got the picture of Malcolm holding up that big tomahawk. How about that, Malcolm?
That thing is massive.
Yeah. Those tomahawks are great, but I think they're all about show. And JT was right. When that bone radiates so much heat, it tends to overcook it a little bit up against it. Now, you do get some good flavor from meat on a bone. And when you go to a fancy steakhouse and they bring it out, it's, everybody's looking at that steak they're walking through handing to you. So
it looks like a roast.
Has something to it. But, you're also paying for that bone.
Yeah.
So when you're buying steaks, man, you got to think about it. That bone weighs pretty good amount. So that's going to raise the price up. So I'm usually trying to get the best value and get the most meat for my buck.
Well, that thing you're holding there, Malcolm, you couldn't put that on a platter. That won't fit on a regular plate. You'd have to have 2 place settings of space to serve that deal up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, we bring out the big cutting board for that one. You'll have the juices running.
Oh, my gosh, that is so great. You want to hold on through the break, come back and talk to us some more, Malcolm, share some of your stories with JT. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Malcolm Reed is our guest from Killer Hogs BBQ. Malcolm, talk to us a little bit about some of the dialogue you and JT shared, talking about your love for cooking. Anything in particular kind of stick in your head there you want to share with us?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, I met JT many, many years ago, back when Bob was on the air with him. I guess they got to talking about barbecue one day, and it come up that he had been looking on a website at this guy that was cooking recipes. So they called me up and wanted to know if I wanted to talk, come on SuperTalk. And all I knew about SuperTalk was that it was a political show that JT was doing. And so I just knew he was going to ask me all my views, and and I wasn't ready for all that. But when I went on, man, we talked barbecue, we talked NASCAR, we talked tailgating, and we just became friends. I mean, he was into all the same stuff that I was into, and had a love for barbecue. And I think just about every time I went on the air with him, we talked about how to cook a pork butt. That was one of his favorite things. He knew that you had to get them seasoned up and injected and smoked, but then it helped to wrap them in foil and hold them in a cooler when you got them done, so they'd really just fall apart. And that was one thing that I always stuck with me about JT, was how he knew all the steps of what we were cooking. He taught me about putting mustard on catfish. I'd never heard of putting mustard on a catfish fillet before I put the cornmeal on it and season it up. So that was one of his big things. And a lot of people probably don't know that he had his own chili seasoning. Him and one of his buddies had bottled it up, and they didn't sell it. They just gave it to their friends, but they actually bottled their chili seasoning. And he sent me some, and and told me how to make a quick pot of chili. And that was been an inspiration for me on some of the other things outside of barbecue that I've started bottling. Just from talking with my buddy JT.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, first, the mustard on the catfish. I hadn't heard that trick before, but I can see how. So you do that before you bread it, right? Before you. Yeah.
Just a thin coat. That's what JT taught me.
Huh.
Just put a thin coat of yellow mustard on it. Then you can season it with a little Tony's or whatever seasoning you like, and then put it in your cornmeal, and it's ready to fry. And it just does something special to it. I don't know. It makes it extra crispy and gives it you don't really taste the mustard flavor at all. That kind of cooks away, but it helps the seasoning, helps that cornmeal stick to it, and it just makes a really good Mississippi-style fried catfish fillet.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think I'll have to try that. Well, I won't personally do it, but I'll recommend it to the person who prepares it. I'll eat it, though. It just, I don't know, kind of sounds like it might cut a little bit of the fishiness out of there as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's probably where it came from. A lot of guys were out getting those river fish down there or out of the reservoir, and sometimes they'll have a little stronger taste. They're not like those pride of the pond, the ones we get from the farm, and so that mustard probably covers up a little bit of it.
Yeah, no question about it. William in Greenville says Malcolm is like JT, irreplaceable. There you go, Malcolm. Very cool.
I don't know about that. Those are big shoes to fill there, man.
No question about it. Now, I'm looking on here, Rhino. Someone said they just bought a Pit Boss grill, I think, and they're trying to learn all the nuances of that. And can be complex. So this whole grilling thing, and I mean, something I know nothing about, of course, Malcolm, the expert in this subject matter. There's a lot of complexities, and is this something, Malcolm, though, that there's really no consensus, if that's the way to describe it, amongst you master barbecuers, that you just all have kind of your own approach, your own secrets, your own techniques, and those just kind of stick with you, and that's your calling card. That's what makes you unique. Is that fair to say?
Well, there used to be a lot of secrets. Everybody used to hold those cards close to their vest, but that was kind of been my thing all along. I don't consider myself a master barbecuer. I just love doing it.
Yeah.
But I love sharing with other people what I'm doing. And I think that opens the door for people just learning that they can cook better and cook good stuff. Barbecue's not hard. It's not, we're cooking meat to temperatures and putting some smoke and seasoning to it. And it just takes time. And it takes patience, and it's people have been doing it since man's made fire.
Yeah.
And we're just working on making it better every time. And I think it's a lot of it is just the act of getting out and cooking something and sharing it with somebody.
Yeah,
that's what makes it special.
I certainly understand that, and I think any just good-hearted person that is not all wrapped up in themselves and is thinking about service to others. This is how they do it. And then they have these skills. God blessed them with those, and they share them with others. That's what JT did. That's what you're doing. I have deep respect for that, I got to tell you, mainly because it's something I can't do. I'm kind of jealous. And maybe you're right, I could. I never tried. I guess the way I looked at it is, you know what, I'll go do what kind of God blessed me with in terms of skills, and I'll produce income to use to spend on those that do. That's what makes the world go round,
There's nothing wrong. You got to have eaters. You got to have eaters out there.
That's pretty cool. But so you guys also had the common love for NASCAR. You touched on that a minute ago as well. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, JT had way more NASCAR stories than I did, but I think we both like Dale Earnhardt. That was a connection.
Yeah.
And so we always talked about the different tracks I've had in my years. So I've got to go to Bristol. I've got to go to Talladega, or just a few other tracks. So, we always just, I think it was more the good old days of NASCAR, what we liked, as opposed to what it's, kind of got to now. It seems like it's changed a lot. I know they're just trying to stay up with the times and stuff, but back in the day when I was a huge NASCAR fan, I think that's what JT was really into it too.
Yeah,
man, he loved to talk racing. That's one thing he liked.
No question. And we've been featuring a continuous display of photos of JT through the years, and so many, Rhino, with him in the pits at these NASCAR events, and some of them features him in the vehicles, in the driver's seat with the headset on and so forth. He is just absolutely in heaven in those photos.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever talk with him about him and Gary getting to go to Bristol and getting to actually get in the car and take a couple laps? Did he ever talk about that with you, Malcolm?
Well, I did get to, because I got to go up there once too, and I was with the NHRA when I got to go cooking some lunches for some guys. And so I told JT, they let us go around the track, but we had to do it in rented minivans. They wouldn't trust us in a race car like he got to do. He actually got to make fast laps. It was all we could do to hold his minivan on the Bristol track.
Oh, that's cool. So have you ever grilled at a NASCAR event, Malcolm?
Not at I got to at an NHRA event that was held at Bristol. They have a big, I think it's the Summer National in Bristol they had up there, and I got invited to go up there and cook with the John Force racing team and cook for all his pit crew and everybody. So I got to meet a lot of those drag strip guys. Yeah. And, the racetrack was right there, and they were they were letting these NHRA drivers make hot laps around like in one of the test race cars. And then we wanted too bad, but, they said the best we could do is just go out there and make a few runs around in a minivan. So I got to make like 3 laps. Yeah. But I'm telling you what, you had to keep that minivan at like 85 miles an hour to make it stay up on the bankment. And so in a minivan cocked at that angle like Bristol,
take off and start flying on you. Oh, that is so awesome. So was there ever any disagreement between you and JT as far as how to prepare something, how to cook something?
I don't think there was in food, but, he was a state man, and I'm an Ole Miss guy.
There you go, hotty-toddy, baby. Oh, man.
We always threw that. When we thought barbecue or any kind of food, we threw all those differences out.
I hear you.
We all get on the same page when we're talking food.
Me too. Same here. Malcolm, been a pleasure having you on today, my friend. JT loved you and thought the world of you, and it's just great to have you on as part of this tribute.
Yeah, guys, I thank you, man, and my prayers go out to the Williamson family and everybody at SuperTalk. We're all going to miss him greatly. He was truly a great man, a great Mississippian, and he did a lot for everybody. So, prayers are with everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.